What are you laughing at, Jim? We are now live, just so you know. What are you laughing at? Why have you gone giddy there?
Because the fact that you were just going to start talking and thought, oh shit, let's just get it on the poddy first because it's going to be funny. Like he just made
It's always
it
the way we start chatting and then we press record and then like
record now, you know, mate. You better
I
say hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you? This is the Boot Room Podcast. Tag, I want to start actually with you had a good day yesterday. Big winner. Tell us all about it, mate. You must be a proud man today.
It's just this horse is unbelievable. I've had numerous horses, but this lad's like only as early as January, he's come fucking third, beating a long way, by the way, in like a fucking egg and spoon race. And I actually said to Laura Morgan, the trainer at the time I went, I said, just fucking get me out of him. I said, get what you can for him. Get me 10 grand. Just get me out of this horse. And she went, nah. She said, you don't see what I see at home. So I was like, fuck me. You know, when I am an owner who kind of like, I don't tell
You're the Roman Abramovich here, of course.
No, mate, I'm not. I'm the total opposite. I'm an owner, but like they're the experts, you know. So I love horse racing and I know a lot about it, but these trainers are the experts. So whatever they say goes. So I just went, yeah, fine. So anyway, this lad's come out and he's ran 9 races. He's won 7. He should have won 9 out of 9. He nearly fell at the last at once and then fucking flew home and got beaten nose. And then he vied across the track last time. But anyway, he's won his last 7. But yesterday, it was that was a red hot race. It was a Class 2 race. You know, one of the favourite of the race won a big race at Cheltenham last year. Like pissed up as well, and he'd been off.
The horse was drunk.
Oh, listen. This lad's just fucking. I mean, we've got some nice problems. Where do we go next from? And you know what? He's got to be going for the big races now. He's in with the big boys.
Well, we had a couple of questions coming in yesterday. One from Andrew Nicholson, who said he wants to know a little bit more around your interest in horse racing and how did you get involved in the ownership? Because I suppose it's not something that you kind of fall into. Have you always had a bit of an interest there?
I used to room with Keith Gillespie, so you can't fucking you can't get used to horses. I know my uncles and all that are all massive into the horse racing. My uncles, there's particularly 2 of them. They fly all over the place. They go to Dubai. They go to Ireland in Aidan O'Brien's yard. They have yard visits, and it's always been in the family. I've always took an interest in it, and yeah, just took when the chance come in to get involved. But yeah, it's a proper passion now. Like it's, you know. My whole day surrounded by horse racing. I just love it.
Jim, you look like you're up to no good there.
Nah, I was just going to say he loves it that much. He's borrowed some of the horse's teeth while he's been out and about.
That's just because I've had a pop of yours off camera, haven't I, you yellow bastard?
Jim, you went with the yellow microphone this week, mate.
It's actually more of a lime green, but it does look yellow in this light.
Yeah. How are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, good, mate. Just fucking... Don't know what to do with myself this weekend. No kids footy. Fucking, what do you do when you got a bit of time to yourself? Like,
I know that was one of the next topics that I wanted to come to. Obviously, terribly sad news. The Queen's passing. I don't think you have to be, whether you're a fan of the Royals or not, to share in the fact that it's sad news. I have to say, I've got to watch my words carefully here, right? You can pay respects to a lady that has had an unbelievable tenure, lived through some really difficult times. A lot of people respect her for how she's held that role. But at the same time, people should be able to mourn in their own ways. I have to say, Jim, I find it a little bit mad that it's like the country is kind of shut down. Football's been cancelled, but even more so, kids football is being cancelled. I don't know. It seems a bit much for me.
Country hasn't shut down though, has it? Like everything else carried on.
But it was like there's going to be 10 days of mourning, and then there was all sorts coming out.
That's just. I mean, that's just pageantry, isn't it? Look, I'm with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm no royalist in any way, shape, or form. But the lady obviously had a great run, and she's done a lot for the country. So fair play. And I can understand why competitive football was called off. I get that. But anything below under 16s, I just don't get that. I don't understand what the what the thinking is around that, because most of it's non-competitive anyway. Most people trained or maybe had a friendly with whoever we were probably going to play anyway. So that's what I don't understand is the lower end, especially when cricket's still going on. You know, our local cricket team played on Saturday. Rugby was still going on, and it was literally seems like it was now. I know there's been reports that competitive football is cancelled because people wouldn't adhere to the minute silence. Look, I get that. That's absolutely fine. Football, majority of football fans are mongs, so I totally understand that. But when it comes to kids football, it's completely blown my mind.
Where are you with this, Tank? Because there's a slight voice in the back of my mind that thinks with football, you have the likes of Liverpool, you have the likes of teams like Celtic who would hold very deep political views. Liverpool is a socialist city. I am a little bit nervous about tonight, to be honest. The Liverpool Ajax game in the stadium. How is that sort of minute silence or whatever they choose to do going to be observed? You will always get people, I think, given how strongly they feel about what the monarchy represents and the likes. It's going to put the spotlight on Liverpool, and I'm just worried that people will probably make some noises that they shouldn't, and the media will lap it up and be able to throw stones. Where do you sit with it all? Because you were only telling us that you're a massive fan of Queen Elizabeth.
I do. I like the Rose. You know, I like the fact that I like her. Don't get me wrong. I don't like the son who's a nonce. I don't like him. But
allegedly, folks.
I like. Okay.
Which one?
No, I always like the Queen, and like I've took our kids to London since they were this high, and to the palace, and I kind of get wrapped in it as well. And Windsor Castle, we've been there, and I love all of that. I do like it. No matter what your views are, this is just my opinion. What your views are, if you boo, she saved the country for 70 years. That's a fact. She's been unbelievable, and she's done the country proud, in my opinion. If you boo a minute silence for it, no matter what your political opinions, I think you're a bit of a twat.
Yeah.
Just show respect to the woman. She reigned for 70 years. She's been fucking unbelievable. She saved the country, and just show a minute's respect and put your political bollocks to one side and give the lady the respect what she deserves. So that's my opinion on that one. On the fact that the games got cancelled at the weekend, and this might be me being a little bit political, it's kind of like all of the working class sports got squashed and went, yeah, you fuck off. But all of our Tory sports, if you like, your cricket, your rugby, yeah, they're cool, they're good to go. Me personally, this weekend, it cost me 800 quid. I shelled out because I've got a lucky car. I was going down to Millwall to watch Jack play. So I hired a car for 4 days and I paid £200 for a hotel to stay down in London to watch him. So when it gets cancelled, I pick the car up on Thursday. It gets fucking cancelled. So I've got a hired car sat there for fuck all and a hotel, which you couldn't get a refund back. So that cost me 800 quid. So what about the working class people who prepared away games and bought tickets and bought, train tickets and transport, or done what I done and maybe hired vehicles? There's just no thought process. And I don't understand what it done. I don't understand what we got out of it. Peter Crouch's tweet for me was brilliant.
It was brilliant, yeah. It was really good.
Why not just go there? If you're worried about the minutes, just do a minute's applause. And if you don't want to clap, fuck it, just don't. Yeah. But just do that. And don't even get me started on kids football. It's just, these kids have suffered enough in the past 2 or 3 years with the pandemic. And yeah, we're taking another weekend off the kids. It's not right.
Yeah, and especially when it's at this time, it's when kids can actually play games as well. Yeah. The weather's not too bad at the moment. And the other thing, like you said, you touched on it there, Tank, I suppose the impact on the regular Joes. I mean, I have a good friend who was taking his son over. He's based in Ireland. He was taking his son over to the Liverpool Wolves game. It was his son's birthday present. It was his first game at Anfield. Yeah. He bought the tickets, got the hotels, all that. And then when they're on the boat over, you know what I mean? The news filters through that it got cancelled. There's so many fans. It's not just the local communities, and I say this from a Liverpool perspective. Think of the match day revenues for the local businesses that it would generate. You've often got people on 0 hours contracts that get drafted in to help help support around these events. There's so many people that are impacted, and then you've got the global perspective of fans traveling into these games. It just feels like they've not thought about this, the wider impact at all. And it seems like, Tank, that Liverpool Chelsea, isn't going to go ahead. There's been more cancellations yet.
It's tough.
Yeah, Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously shortage of police, I think, is the official line. In a season, what's that, mate?
They're saying Liverpool, not Liverpool. They're saying London's full. No
It's
one
full.
can come
As
to
in,
London. It's
there's
full
too many. What, to
capacity.
go in
Yeah,
to see the
like
coffin and stuff?
no one can go. Like so.
I get the games being off in London this weekend. I can understand that. I get that. If you can't police football, then you've got a huge issue. Football has to be policed. But look, as I say, last weekend I thought it was a piss take, and you've hit the nail on the head there, Jamie. But that's one young kid who is kind of birthday weekends being shit on.
Yeah.
When really it didn't have to be. But this is the country what we live in over here. All they give a fuck about is themselves and their here and now. They don't think what the filter down is going to be. There was no reason for games to be off the weekend. No reason at all.
And I suppose when you look at this in a purely football context, let's be honest, this season is an absolute shit show, the way it's been pieced together. So you're now going to have a World Cup. We've got an international break coming up. We've got a World Cup coming up. You've got all these competitions for players that are already goosed, having had a shortened pre-season. And now you're going to have to try and shoehorn in a few extra fixtures at some point throughout the course of the season. Jim, is this just not a case of there being zero joined up thinking in any shape or form between those that are governing football at the moment?
No, I don't think it is, to be fair. They're not. When something like this happens, it's not knee-jerk reaction, I guess. It's who does it benefit most? And, like you say, football clubs they're not thought of as as an institutional, what happens, them players aren't thought of in these instances of, this happening. No one's going, oh no, Trent's already goosed. He's got to play another 2 games somewhere along the lines in this season. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking, oh, Queen's died. We need to show our respect. Prince William's the president of the FA. We don't want anyone to play and whatnot. But I bet he would want them to play. I'm fairly certain he would want them to play. So look, I'm not in that position because it's a fairly high position to be in, to be able to go out. We're calling all games off. Surely you got to. Someone goes, hang on a sec. Like let's just think this one through, and what are the impacts across the whole nation. So yeah, it's a really poorly thought out decision.
Talking of poorly thought out decisions, it's a nice little segue to my next topic. Since we last caught up, our mate Tommy Tuchel has been sacked by Chelsea. I was surprised, I'll be honest, when I saw the news. Look, he seems a bit of it. I actually respect him as a manager. I think he's a great coach. I think he seems a little bit negative, and in the last couple of months, you can see visibly that he seemed like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. There's rumours of discontent in the dressing room. Certainly wouldn't be the first time Chelsea players have potentially thrown a manager under the bus. Tank, were you surprised when you saw the news come through that Tuchel had been sacked, or is this just another case of Chelsea being ruthless?
Well, if it was under the Abramovich era, you'd say it's just that standard Chelsea being ruthless. But we're told that it's a brand new era, and they're going to do things different, and it's fucking worse than Abramovich, really, isn't it? I mean, how can you give a manager all of these signings, spend that amount of money, and then all of a sudden just sack him? Which then brings into the question: with all of these signings, because it did seem this owner was just going on a scattergun approach, and everyone was joining from him. They spent a lot of money, but it's a very strange decision for me. After I think I put in our WhatsApp group that everyone's saying how bad the start of the season, and they're fucking above Liverpool, they're 5th or 6th in the league. It's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, it just seems, as an outsider looking in, Jim. Well, actually, Chelsea's one of the 7 clubs that you support, isn't it, Jim?
Possibly, mate. You never know. Watch your space.
I've seen pictures of you in Chelsea shirts anyway at some point.
Yeah, that was. There's stories behind that. You've done me dirty there, so I'll tell that story another time.
Another time, okay. But yeah, when you're looking at it, outsider looking in, I mean, you'd have your ear close to the ground with all things Chelsea, obviously. Yeah, but outsider looking in, it does seem a little bit scattergun there. For, as Tank says, from the signings that have been made. I mean, Poor Aubameyang. He's come in to link up with his old manager who he loves, and then all of a sudden
He'd even
they've booted him out.
the week before, like really looking forward to working with him again. God, I'll be honest, I wasn't that surprised, if I'm being honest. I thought he didn't cut a figure that was enthused about working at that moment in time, and I think the story's coming out. It isn't been down to results. So I think there's a really strained relationship between him and Todd.
WhatsApp groups, I think, was one of you and Todd. The WhatsApp
Todd,
groups, I think.
Like, we're dead sound, me and Todd, like this. That's me on top, by the way.
But Todd basically wanted WhatsApp. So basically set up WhatsApp groups. He wanted more direct lines of communication with the manager. I don't think Tuchel was meant to be too keen on that idea. Yeah. And it sounds like things got frayed a little bit.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the results did wane towards the end of last season. And, they didn't finish strongly. They've not started strongly. And then from a signings point of view, I think, although it does seem scattergun, I think they've had a lot of upheaval this season from a fairly stable team. In that they've lost defenders, they've lost, some key players there. So I think it's just sort of the perfect storms come together to get rid of him. And look, I'm really pleased for Graham Potter. I hope he really does. I hope he does well at Chelsea. 2, I'm glad Liverpool haven't got him, but that's still time. But yeah, I must admit I wasn't surprised. Although then I did see a graphic where it showed Tuchel's trophies won, days managed at Chelsea compared to Jurgen Klopp's. And he's on a par. He's on a par with Jurgen. I think the only trophy he hasn't won that Jurgen's won was the Premier League. I think
pretty big one then, yeah.
But in I think 4 years less. So he had time.
Okay. So,
but that surprised me. I didn't see that. I'm not putting that against Klopp in any way, shape, or form in putting him down. What I'm saying is,
you're just trying to dig yourself out of a hole, there, Jim.
No. I didn't really. I'd happily slag Liverpool off. That's no issues. But I just didn't want that to be. My point was, I didn't realise he'd won so much in such a short space of time. So my initial reaction was I wasn't surprised, and actually seeing that, then yeah, it probably a fairly knee jerk.
Tank, where are you? Because I suppose with the Graham Potter thing, we'd spoke at length. We wanted him to potentially replace Jurgen Klopp when the time is that he moves on. We've spoke on this podcast many times that we're massive fans of his. I was actually annoyed to see him go there, to be honest, in a way, because I do rate him that highly. What did you make of the appointment?
It's a great appointment, isn't it? But what I will say is that it's a great appointment. But I'm not too sure he's going to last at Chelsea, because history tells you that Chelsea don't stick with managers, and I just think it'd be. Is it a risk for him?
Is it a risk?
I think it's a free hit for him. I think it's a free hit because he's done wonders at every club he's been to. He really has. And what he's done for Brighton is phenomenal. I mean, what you've got to take into consideration of Brighton is every season he sell the best players. You go back to was it Ben White when he went up? Was that last season? So they lose 2 or 3 of their best players every season, but he maintains the level. And I just think he's a top draw coach. I think he'll do well at Chelsea, but I think as soon as he hits a rocky patch, and he will, like every manager, he won't get the grace what he would somewhere else. You know what I mean? And I just think it's a free hit for him, because if he goes in, he does quite well. He finished Champions League. He's not quite challenging. He'll get the sack, and other clubs will take him without a shadow of a doubt. Graham Potter as a manager, as you've just said, I rate him extremely highly, and I would have loved to see him take over from Klopp when the big German decides to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's funny because
you get sacked.
Well, actually, that does bring us to the next topic. And I've had lots of comments on social media that I've managed to skip past talking about Liverpool conveniently when they've had a couple of
time to lose. It's on a Monday night. And then we just convenently skip that.
That is true, though, Tank, isn't it? Every single time. Jimmy buggered off for a couple of weeks on holiday.
That was my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Yeah, never our fault. Liverpool's fault. No, never. But yeah, I've had a couple of comments that we've obviously avoided some of Liverpool's trickier results, and I'm going to make sure that we don't do that now because Liverpool are in a bad place at the moment. There's no two ways about it. They look a team that is devoid of confidence. They're missing some key players, but also some of their big players over recent years look a shadow of the former selves. And I suppose what's more worrying is we actually seem to have lost our identity and hunger, and the structure of the team just seems off. Obviously, Jim, since we last caught up, they've had another shocking result, probably one of the worst I can remember in my time as a fan in recent years. Certainly in the Klopp era, I think there was one Spurs away, which was a really bad one. I think actually Napoli
Stoke
away.
What about Stoke away? 6-0, was it?
Well, that was Brendan Rodgers, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Okay, sorry.
That was his last game.
Come on, fucking hell, Statman. Sort it out, will you?
Statman Jim's
You put me on the don't get sent an agenda anymore.
Try and be a clever dick. Well, to be fair,
I'm not. I'm just pointing out the results. That was all.
Well, we can't point out your results because fucking no one knows your support.
You do have to put your name. Like, you're gonna have to nominate a team here, Jim, at some point.
Anyone
you do know
Liverpool. Whoever
Anyone
Liverpool are playing.
But what have you made as a Jim? Because obviously you're certainly not emotionally invested like myself and Tank. It was a horror show against Napoli, and it certainly hasn't been the start of the season that they would have wanted.
No, and the question that I would be asking is where and why is it going wrong? So I know you've said a lot of the time that the players look goosed. I get that. But from what I've seen, no matter how goosed you are, you can attempt to run. You can run in some shape or form. From what I've seen, namely Trent, Virgil, they're just stopping dead. Not attempting to run, but physically can't. I've seen people come off the end of marathons and are still going at a steady enough pace where you're going that it's a run. It's not a sprint, don't get me wrong, but it's a run after 26 miles. So when you're seeing people stopping, the question is, where has their motivation gone?
Do you think it's motivation based? Do you think that?
I don't think it's down to tired. Don't get me wrong. I think they're tired. Everyone gets tired. But as I said, when you are tired, there's people that run marathons, 10 marathons in a row, and they still carry on doing them 10 marathons. Now, they're not doing it at a pace, granted, but they're running. So how tired you are, you can still move and run. But what I'm seeing is people stopping dead and going, nah. So that is a question that I would ask is if they were moving a give and go, for instance, Trent gets done on a give and go. If he's making some attempts, you can physically see that he's exhausted. You go, right, he's so tired and he where he is. But he doesn't, he just stops and goes, watches, right, oh, they've scored again. That to me is the worry. Not of the physical exhaustions, it's seemingly they're giving up.
Where are you on that, Tank? Because I know what Jimmy... So I was fuming after the United game because of the manner of the goals that we conceded. I think I shared the video of, I think it was Virgil not wanting to go down, close the ball. And look, I hate talking like this about players that have been so brilliant. But at the same time, there is a worrying trend that is materializing. And I think the drop-off has been so stark. But let's be honest. I think somebody can correct me on this. Did Chelsea not play pretty much a shit ton of games as well last season? And I know obviously Tuchel has been sacked, but they're higher up in the league than Liverpool. Their players don't look noticeably goose. They're just patching together a new team. So there's something that says to me, yeah, players do look goose, but there is something in what Jimmy's saying there. You know as better than anyone, Tank. A fullback's job is, first and foremost, particularly in wide areas, stop the cross. You can't get the cross in, close your man, give them no space. That, particularly down that right-hand side, Trent has not been at it, and it's been magnified to the nth degree. I feel like I've seen the same goal about 4 or 5 times where it's been not closing down the man, the little triangle, played, slipped in around the back goal. What have you made of it all, mate? Because it just does seem a bit of a mess.
It does. And Trent's form has got nothing to do with lack of trying. I've seen all of the stupid videos. I actually posted this on their social media because, if anyone posted just the clips about your shit parts of your game, every player, including Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, all of the best players in the world, they'd all look shit. So I can't stand all of this social media bollocks now. Trent, his confidence is shot to pieces. I've been there as a player, and there's no lack of trying from him. It's lack of focus and it's lack of concentration. And he's focusing on trying to do the right things that much that it's duplicating away from the basics, what he should be doing. It's not a lack of running from Trent. It's not a lack of caring. It's not a lack of fucking anything like that. He's just in one of them moments where I've had them in my career where you can't do anything wrong. When you go to close and you just think, yeah, I've done it now, and then you just let the man run. It's not lazy thinking, I don't want to follow that man, I can't be asked. It's because you're conscious of trying to be better and trying to do the right things that you forget the basics of your football, of what you were doing. And it's as if, because many managers say, just go back to basics. Just go back to the basics of how you used to play. He's just devoid of all confidence, Trent. But I tell you something about Trent now. Take him out of that Liverpool side now and we're fucked. We create nothing. 90% of what we create still comes from him. Everything still comes from him. He's having an absolute nightmare. But he's not the only one. And the focus has driven me insane because it's all on Trent. It's all on Trent because we're so reliable. Andy Robertson's been worse than Trent this season. He's been miles worse. He's offered absolutely nothing whatsoever to the Liverpool team. Nothing at all. But he gets away with it. I don't know whether it's because he's a local lad or, there hasn't been as many videos going around viral showing Trent getting done for 1-2s. But it's just... I tell you that you've just hit the nail on the head, Jamie, about Chelsea. They played one game less than Liverpool last season. That was the Champions League game. Now, but what Chelsea done is went out and signed 10 players. And I don't care. And I'll bang this drum till the day till FSG either fuck off. We have not invested enough in this squad. Jurgen Klopp asked this squad to play in a particular way, but it's not just playing that particular way. They have to train in that particular way. So this is 7 days a week. Fucking intensity through the roof. You have to freshen things up. You have to bring new blood in. You have to bring younger legs in. And we haven't done it. We simply haven't done it.
You wanted to come in, Jim?
I was going to say that my question was who's culpable then? If Trent's your most if Trent's your most creative player and it's not Trent's fault and he's absolutely, he's in this.
I didn't say it's not Trent's fault.
No, okay.
Trent's not deliberately playing bad, Jimmy.
No,
he's not going out saying I'm going to play bad today.
No, I know. What he's saying is he's in a rut, isn't he? He's in a rut and he can't get himself out. But you've got no right back to come in. So who's culpable for this? Because if you've got no right back to come in, he's your most creative. You're relying on a player. Someone's got to be culpable. Is that not Klopp?
I think, just to come in here, because I think there's a couple of different things at play. Liverpool look fundamentally broken at the moment, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think the structure of the team is completely different. So I might get pelters for this, right? I think Harvey Elliott is an unbelievably talented midfielder, certainly offensively. But Liverpool, the reason why Liverpool have been so successful over the years is that they've had, and I don't want to use the word workman-like because it's a total disservice.
It's true.
But you've had Henderson, Fabinho, and Wijnaldum for the best part of Liverpool's success, and they were absolute machines. They'd run all day. They'd cover the spaces that allowed the offensive players to go and create and play with that freedom. We're now playing in a midfield where Fabinho is covering for so many people in midfield. We started the derby with Carvalho and Harvey Elliott in a midfield three. He's having to cover for basically two people. And what we're lacking, and people love to throw stones at him, but Jordan Henderson on the right-hand side of that Liverpool midfield, now I agree he's looking leggy and he can't reach the levels that he had done previously. But from a defensive solidity perspective, he gives Trent the cover to go and play with that freedom. Whereas at the moment, we don't have that. So I feel like, Jim, it's probably a mix of a lot of things. I think lack of confidence, like Tank says. I have this theory, and look, I went through it at a certain time, and remember at Warrington Town, Jim, they brought in the sports site. Were you there then? And they brought in the sports psychologist. Yeah, and so it was good, and it helped me because I was struggling at the time. And one of the things we spoke about is footballers in my opinion, are at their best when they play on instinct. But when you lack confidence, you overthink situations, and you know better than anyone, Tank, the worst thing you can give footballers sometimes is too much time on the ball because you overthink things. And I feel like Trent is now not playing on instinct. He's worried. So you've got lack of confidence. Klopp asking the same core group of players to go to the well for the best part of 5-6 years, like Tank says, not a huge amount of investment. And then you've got the reason why this team has been able to structurally perform has been removed. Liverpool's midfield has holes everywhere. That's probably the reasons that I can kind of piece together. What do you think, Tank?
I think you're bang on, mate, and I think you're bang on about Harvey Elliott. I'm his biggest fan. I think the kid is absolutely phenomenal, but I'm not too sure. Liverpool is a workmanlike team, and it only works in that midfield because the three, what you've mentioned, Wijnaldum, Fabinho and Henderson, when they were all on their pomp, I mean, how many times did Wijnaldum or Henderson fill in at right back and get the ball, stop the defence, and then Trent all of a sudden higher up, and it's gone. And as you see, we're asking Fabinho. No wonder Fabinho's fucked, because he's probably thinking, I'm doing 3-man job here. I'm trying to cover the left back, cover the right back, cover the midfielders. It's impossible to do all of that. Now,
I used to do that for Jimmy.
That doesn't surprise me. Now, the simple thing for me, Jamie, and I keep harping on about it, is investment. Why didn't we just go and sign Calvin Phillips, who's basically a younger version of Henderson? He's only 40-odd million. Man City, when they got him, he won't kick out. I don't think he's kicked the ball for Man City this season. He'd be starting week in, week out for us, and he'd probably be very, very good alongside Fabinho. And that's another workman-like midfielder who will allow Liverpool to play the way they played.
Yeah. The foundation of the team just doesn't seem there.
My question still remains then, who's culpable for this? Because you've just outlined your issues in that you were very successful with a midfield three of Wijnaldum, Henderson and Fabinho.
I've just told you, Jimmy, it's the investment.
Okay, but then
you're trying to get it. You're trying to get it.
Yeah. I'm not. My question. I think it's a valid question, because if you know, then surely Klopp knows that. Then surely he knows that a Carvalho is not going to do the same job as a Wijnaldum or a Henderson. So why not go out and get a type of player that you've been so successful with?
But this is what we're saying about the investment. He's not. You can see by Klopp's comments lately. Me personally, I'm reading between the lines that he's pissed off. He's not being given money. He's saying in one of his press conferences, "I would like to take more risk in the transfer market."
So that's the first time he's come out and said something like that.
That for me tells you everything.
Look, that's fine if he's not. But then are the type of players that he has been able to sign, are they the wrong players? So it is, where does Carvalho fit in that midfield three?
He's not a midfield three player.
Yeah, I think we've also got the consequence. I think something has gone badly wrong with Liverpool's pre-season. And again, I could be fucking speaking out of turn here. I think, Tank, you probably know people at the club, so if I'm speaking bad of your mates or whatever, I apologise. But it just seems mad that Liverpool pre-season were meant to go fully at it. Liverpool put the players through a proper full pre-season. We know what Liverpool's pre-seasons are like. We know what a Klopp team, what Klopp demands of his team. Whereas if you reverse that and look at Pep at Manchester City, I think they were a couple of weeks behind Liverpool when we played in the Charity Shield. He pretty much said he was happy to kind of nearly see the first few games as their pre-season and kind of build from there. Yeah, whereas Liverpool, it seems like they just ran them ragged. They've lost half the midfield. So you said there, Jim, about Carvalho. I don't think he is a midfield. I think he's more of a 10 or can play from the left. But for me, we're in a situation where we've lost half our midfielders. That is, for me, I think Klopp is probably culpable a little bit there along with FSG, because he looked at it at the start of the season and went, we've got 7-8 players to fill 3 positions. I think we've got enough. But a lot of Liverpool fans were saying, well, 40% of that list are injury prone. But Klopp is like, no, we'll be okay. And he's took a spin of the wheel like he did at centre back, because he thinks that he's going to get the one player that he wants, which is, i.e., a Jude Bellingham. And it's the risk that probably, would you say, Tank, has backfired at this stage?
I think it's backfired massively. But Jamie, do you know when you say about 40%, I think 80% of Liverpool's midfielder is injury prone. You run
probably
through the list that there's, Fabinho probably plays more than most, but he misses a lot of games. I agree with you. I think Klopp has probably thought, we'll roll the dice and we try and get through it. I think we've got enough, and it's bit us on the arse massively. I mean, some of his comments about fucking Arthur is his name, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Who we've signed
Cool.
from Juventus. I mean, that's concerning. What I was watching Klopp's thing on him, and he was saying like he's had no minutes, he's had no intensity, he's had no training, so he can't play. So what the fuck did we sign him for? Yeah. He's basically admitted he's not going to be ready for a long time to get to the intensity. He's played no football in Italy for a long time, and he's not really been training. So it's kind of like another fucking mad signing.
I got abuse on social media for saying it's another Ben Davies type signing, and I didn't mean that literally. Obviously, the parallels between the two careers are completely different. But what I meant was a stopgap. Liverpool have signed another stopgap player, Ben Davies, Kabak, rather than going out and investing. So it is a worry. Just to finish off, because we've got a couple of bits that I want to do before we wrap up. Is how does it get fixed, and do you see it getting fixed, Jim?
This would be my question. I wouldn't want to be in Jurgen Klopp. It seems to me that Klopp's fallen into that father figure at Liverpool, and he's got too many emotional ties with players. Because you've just said it. The eight players in that midfield there are injury prone, and although maybe great players on their day, if you're not playing, 50% of your games, there's no point. So could Klopp have sold Oxlade-Chamberlain? Could he have sold Naby Keita this summer and brought reinforcements in with that money spent? I would assume so. Now, I think
Ox was meant to go, and the deal he got injured, and the deal got pulled.
And look, that's fine. If it fell through, that's fine. But my point is, he could have sold 3 or 4 of them midfield 4 that we've all identified here as not being the right type of players. And I assume he would have been able to use that money to reinforce with the right type of players. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking Bellingham, but I'm talking people that do what he needs them to do, i.e. work, give the ball to someone better. Someone like that Onana, what's my name, Everton. I'm not saying him.
Or the lad from Brighton who we were meant to be after.
So they've identified, Everton have identified players they need and gone and got him. Doesn't have to be world beater, but he'll break down the play and go and pass to everyone else. But you're relying on Fabinho. So the question is, I don't know how Klopp fixes this. And I genuinely, I don't think he does at this moment in time. And I think for the first time, there'll be a tiny, slightly worry from him that the chop might be coming. And I'm talking minuscule in percentage, but I think it'll be there. Because unless all you need to do is play more games. But if I'm anyone in the Premier League, now is the time I want to play Liverpool. Because they're devoid of ideas and they're devoid of defensive capability. So the honest answer is I have no idea. And I don't think he does.
What about you, Tank?
Do you know my big fear, and I'll probably get a bit of stick on social media for this, my big fear is this Klopp's Dortmund moment.
I saw an article that
is this
year seven at Dortmund he went down.
I mean, Dortmund nearly got relegated that season. I'm not saying we are, don't get me wrong, but that's been at the back of my mind thinking, has he run this race now, which, listen, I don't think he has. I hope he hasn't. I hope he gets the chance to spend money and get the right players and to go again. But at the back of my mind, I just keep thinking, is this Klopp's Dortmund time coming again? Where the drop-off in that Dortmund side, who still had some fucking unbelievable players, by the way, but they just couldn't do what the manager was asking them to do. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and I'm hoping it's just we need fresh legs. He needs backing, serious backing, to go again, because I am quite, you look at the likes of Diaz, he looks a fantastic. Everything. I've been a little bit critical of Nunes, but I've got people who work at the club and inside and say, listen, he is fucking phenomenal in training. Once it clicks, it'll click and the goals will flood. I'll tell you what's going to be an interesting one, and this is a little snippet from inside.
Right? Here we go, exclusive.
Get the yellow, change it to yellow.
The Naby.
Wait there.
Listen, this would be the definitely so
exclusive.
Look at this.
Right. Naby Keita is trying to force the fucking the international.
Naby Keita?
They're trying to get the internet. He's trying to go on international duty, and he's meant to be injured. And this could be the turning of the. Is he fit? Isn't he fit? Because I've been told that he's going on international.
He's insisting on going.
He's insisting on going. So this could be the fucking moment.
plot thickens.
As well. Are they in the World Cup?
I know that.
I think they are, aren't they?
I don't
think
know.
so.
I think a lot of African teams are. I assume.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Oh, okay. So that's a watershed moment.
Yeah,
because there was rumblings that he wasn't happy about pre-Man United game. Felt he should be playing.
That's a fact. He's not injured. The fact is he's not injured.
Stuff started to get leaked in the press, and you know that there's only going to be one winner there with Jurgen, and it all seems a bit fishy. It all seems a bit fishy.
If I'm a Barcelona or Real Madrid or someone like that, you know, if they come sniffing around Jurgen Klopp now around this time, he's a little bit.
No, he's not.
I'm just saying.
He won't go and he won't get sacked.
Before, I'm not saying he'll get sacked. I'm just saying before you would never entertain it. It wouldn't even come to your mind. At this moment in time, if a job like that became available,
them jobs aren't available at all.
No, I know. All I'm saying, Real Madrid have a bad start to season. Come January, Ancelotti's been given the tic tac.
PSG.
You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't even entertain it. It would never have even entered my mind before with the hand and all that. But now, you know what? I bet if they go, listen, Jurgen, I'll give you 200 mil. I bet he'll be going, no. But I bet there'll be that little.
Right. On that note, last couple of things that I want to finish on, right? Because we've got a few listener questions that we that I want to get through. First one has come in from Thomas McGurk, and he wants to know: can you lads talk about pre-game tactics and in the professional level? Are tactics taken on board? So, for example, you're sat in team meetings, you're talking about the opposition, set pieces, or is it very much a time filler tank where lads just sit and nod and go out and do what they need to do anyway?
Oh, Thursday and Friday on the training ground, that's all your tactical work gets done. You'll have is it just a full day's work on who you're playing, how they set
up?
So basically on a Thursday, what we used to do, we'd have an 11v11. So back then we'd have the reserves. So the reserves would come over, and if you're playing, say for instance, Forest at the time were playing Liverpool, who played 4-3-3, but then the reserves would be set up as a 4-3-3. And they'd be told, the reserve manager to tell them, like, you have to play at this, so if you're playing against Trent, the right back would be fucking wherever he is. And, you're working for a good hour on shape and just how you're going to contain them and theirs. And then on a Friday, you'll do that again. And then you'll have set plays for and against. Yeah. So you do your set pieces. So like Liverpool, if you put 5 in the box, Van Dijk, you're like, so you mark him. He makes this run. He does this short corner. And then on a Saturday morning, we'd have a team meeting. So you'd have breakfast, then we'd have a team meeting about 11 o'clock. And we'd sit down and we go through all of their set plays on the telly, and they like stop it and say, this is how they do, or goals they've conceded, goals they've scored. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to take on board.
Do you think we're getting to the point now in the modern game, Tank, where it's a little bit information overload for players? Because I always seem to remember, if you get told too much, sometimes it can be not debilitating, but it can weigh heavy. Whereas it should be 1 or 2 key instructions. Whereas now, because of the data age that we live in, players could get lost in all the stats, facts, and figures these days.
Well, it's a good point, to be fair, because like, Jack, obviously he's at Burnley, like he's only 16, he's playing for he's with the U team, the under 18s, and I get emails through, from Huddle, and like, so they'll have a game on a Saturday, and then they'll have like how they pressed, and I'll get all of the snippets. And look, it's good to see, but it's kind of like that there's a lot of information put at these plays, 10 times more than was back in my day. And I used to sit there and think, I can't remember who you've got to pick up. So you're like, and then, but now it's just, so you might have a point, mate. It could be information over. Maybe that's up at Trent. Maybe that's not happening.
Too many players to mark. Just mark the 7.
Yeah. I actually want to ask you about something just super quick, and this is off the cuff. What's your opinion? Go on, Jim.
I was just going to say, from my point of view as well, and I don't know if Tank agreed this, when I was in the game, most of that not went out the window. It was always in the back of your mind, but the game dictates how you played. So although you might do shape and they play this way and they play that way, when you're in the game, that's why I always sympathize with managers, because in game, you do what feels right at that time. So whether that's
you were that type of player, though, Jim. To be fair,
no, I know, but I think this is anyone. Like if say you're playing as a number 6, And the game they say that and the tactics were right. Well, they have someone dropping deep in a 10, so he marks you, so don't come deep for the ball, right? So you're not coming deep for the ball, but then you're noticing that 10 is playing out on the right. So then you start coming deep for the ball and you're getting successful, but that wasn't your pre-match tactic. So the game dictates where it goes, I think. So although it was great having all these, set plays in particular was always, the big one. In terms of shape and profile, it although in the back of your mind it's repetition, it'd go out the window, I think, in match. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Tank, were.
But it is, as you say, Jimmy, it's sometimes, you could be working all week to face a certain system and a certain type of play. And then nowadays, especially with the squad, they can change like that. And all of a sudden,
it's a different system, in possession,
players.
out of position.
Yeah,
systems.
I agree with you. Sometimes you've just got to go and game's challenging the games. So if the game is, if you might even be playing against that opposition, and an opposition's role is to try and get his opposition manager to think different out the box. So they're obviously targeting different things for you. So you've got to see it. The game dictates.
Two final questions, and I'm going to just try and shoehorn this one in quickly. What is your? So this is me with my coaching hat on, right? So you said there huddle, Tank. So the VO camera setup that you can do now and record games, and obviously we coach an under 11s team, great little group of players. So we started recording our home games and picking up certain little bits and showing. I've certainly showed my son, and I know the other coaches have been showing theirs and whatever. And we're going to try and incorporate it into it. I didn't realize. I think it's 65% of the population are visual learners, so they learn more from visual cues. What are your thoughts on doing those type of things with young players? Because I seem to be able to articulate things so much easier. Certainly to my son, when he's looking at a particular part of play, and I said, well, what did you see there? And what type of pass do you think you could make? And you have an open conversation about it. What's your thoughts on kind of bringing that type of data into youth football?
I think it's a good idea, but it's something what you've got to be very careful of, because I've seen your lad play and he's kind of off the cuff and he looks a talented boy. And sometimes if you want him to play with freedom and you want him to do things where the only way he's going to learn is by doing the wrong things. And, and that's how we progress and get better and better. So it's good in a certain way.
Overcoach,
but I wouldn't overdo it. I wouldn't say like, well, look, mate, if you're running there and he's popped a shot up, but he could have slipped a kid in, well, then that's just, that's the game. I'd try and use it as to point as positives out, and but I certainly wouldn't be going there. You've done this wrong. You've done this, because I done a psychology thing with one of my UEFA license, and it's kind of like if you keep telling a kid over and over and over what they're doing wrong, it's kind of no matter how many times you tell them you've done this well, but you've done this wrong. It's kind of they only remember, the brains only switch to remember the negative stuff. So if you're going to use it on say, for instance, your lad, I'd pick out about 15 really good things and say, this was brilliant, and then just say, here, possibly you could have done that, mate, but, don't worry about that, and just keep it as because I was surprised of and these are all case studies, from a psychologist. He was like, you can really fucking put a kid on a back foot if you point out the negative stuff, because that's all that switches on the register that.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. I want to finish off on the last couple of questions. Jim, this one's coming to you because I know you love these type of questions. And I know you love Fred Flunk, who is a listener of the podcast.
Fred, lad.
As there was no football last weekend, Fred wants to know, what is your favourite food?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this question, but you can go down a rabbit hole with this.
I'm all right with rabbit holes. Well, I'm not.
I love a Nando's, but the way that I see this question is, I don't see this as a question of what is my meal on my deathbed, or what's my death row meal, because that's completely different.
Fucking gone deep at you, Jimmy. You just want to know what you like.
No.
You like a bit of chicken. Mine's a Star Bar. You can't beat a Star Bar.
No, because death row meal is it's creme de la creme. And you're talking, fillet steak. You're talking like something that you're not going to eat every day. What I'm positioning this is that what's my favorite meal?
Eat the same meal every day.
Regular. Okay, I'm going to eat regular. So for me, fajitas all day, lad.
It's a very good shout.
Give me fajitas all day, regular. I look forward to it. When my missus goes, I go, what's for tea? She's going, pasta bake or pesto pasta. I'm like, for fuck. So when she goes, fajitas, I'm like, get in. Yes, we're on it. Sweet.
Would you not have heaters on your deathbed then, Jim?
Nah, I wouldn't know.
You can't
no,
like the
Wouldn't
not
you?
much, mate.
Nah, no, I wouldn't have. Nah,
One last fajita.
Fajitas
One
are
last fajita
decent.
before you fucking die.
Fajitas are mint, but I wouldn't have fajitas on my deathbed. But then you're going like, I love Nando's. Don't get me wrong, I love Nando's, but I'm not going Nando's every week, am I? I'd be
Certainly not on your deathbed. Fucking
No.
there in your
And that's what I'm
cuffs.
saying. You wouldn't have Nando's on your deathbed. You'd have something like, something really high, like lobster steak, like just all the works, everything. Like it's going to cost you about $1,000 when you're going down to bloody what's his name, bloody Salt Bay's restaurant.
I'd say Tank's eaten in a few of those over the years.
Of course, he has.
I thought they was
keeping all the tips to himself. That's why.
Can I ask a ridiculous question off the top of my head, Tank? What's back in the heyday? What's been the most expensive restaurant bill that you've had? Because when you're young and you're getting big contracts and all that, you know what I mean. You got to splash out a bit.
And it was a fucking. It was a mistake, by the way. So
they usually do turn out to be.
I can tell you that. No, it was when
it was
still paying it off now.
I took it. It was. This is how long it was. It was Sharon's 30th, so that's how long ago it was, and we were staying. You know the beige, the sale.
Wow.
Yeah. So we stayed there. We got a fucking just me and her went. We went up to they've got like the restaurants on the top floor, like it's fucking stunning. And I just got a little bit leery and ordered the finest fillet steak. And it was like a Japanese Wagyu beef, which was they give me all the speed. I should have known because they give me all of the speed.
Cows still talking to you at the side of the fucking table.
The cows they get massaged by a special Japanese masseuse. I'm like, fucking Sam, just put it on my plate. And the meal, and then we got a bit carried away with a few cocktails. It was about £3,500. I was fucking absolutely devastated.
Jeez.
Like, I felt like killing that cow, but it was already dead.
Just the steak.
No. To be fair, the steak was about fucking hell. I think the steak was about £800 or £900, mate, just for the steak.
Oh my god! I'd be counting the amount it cost me each bite. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I didn't know, mate. Honestly, you don't know because you just ordered off the menu. You're like, yeah, you'll be fucking big and you'll have that. And she'll have a fucking panini or what do they call it?
What are these £900 poor Sharon's got a panini.
A Bellini.
Fucking ham and tomato panini. Get her that and give me all the fucking trimmings. Get her a glass of water while she's at it.
I think it's a Bellini. There's like the champagne and peach.
Okay, yeah. Nice
one of them, and I'm saying to me, just fucking get one of them. You're cool, and they would about like £100 a pop, and I'm like, get as many as you want. But I must say, it was a mistake. It wasn't meant, and I regret it since.
I've just got pictures of fucking Tank. There's a cow in the back getting fucking massage, and then he's chucking a fucking ham and cheese panini.
Sharon's fuming.
No pudding for you, love.
Mine, I'm the same as you, Jim. You know, I love a fajita, mate.
I know you love fajita.
I actually, the one thing it annoys me, one of many, but not being back home and having to live in Ireland. I think if I was still living near you, we'd have like fajita Thursdays.
Big old bowl of fucking chicken. Get your fajitas on.
Yeah, I'd be into that. But yeah, mine will always be steak, peppered sauce, garlic bread, chips, pure dippage in the peppered sauce.
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong. But yeah, if you same as you said there, Jim, if I'm to eat the same meal every day for the rest of my life, I'm going fajitas all day. I'm actually going to get fajitas tonight now because I'm actually feeling hungry.
I hope
now.
I am. I don't know what I'm having for tea. Baby, I don't think we've got the stuff for fajitas.
So on that point, I'm going to apologise to Albert Crowley. He sent in a question around Premier League strikers. I'm going to do that next week because we have witted on for far too long. Yeah. We need to bring the podcast to a close. So next week, Albert, I'll make sure that we answer your questions. So lads, absolute pleasure as always. Everybody that has been listening to the podcast, supporting the podcast, keep the support coming. We appreciate the feedback. If you can, let us know your comments in the YouTube video below this. So if you just leave us a comment, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff, or just send us your feedback on social media. We love hearing that you're enjoying the shows. And apart from that, make sure you enjoy the rest of your week. We will be back with you again next week on the Boot Room podcast. All the best.
See you later, lads.